Greetings, adventurers. My name's Dave. I'm the developer of the Hyperborea system for Foundry VTT, but I'm also the developer for 3 add-on modules for Foundry. 2 of them I have previously done a video for in a single video. Today's video is the 3rd module that I created. All 3 of them use OpenAI's ChatGPT or their OpenAI API under the covers to assist you in running your games. See the other video for player-facing tools. They're both the two modules are for character backstory creation and personality creation. This one is about narrative encounter enhancement. So that sounds kind of fancy-dancy, but let's just talk about what this is. This is a module that will essentially give you a little bit of narrative text to describe a random encounter. So you use it with random encounter tables. And how does it work? Well, the first thing is you need to have some encounter tables set up, and they just need to be in a folder with the word encounter in it, which I'll show you when we actually get to the demo portion of this video, showing out how it works. And basically, then it will send some information to OpenAI and then get some text back, which gives you this nice narrative textual description of the encounter, which then can be read to the players, or you can just sort of use that as inspiration, but make up your own description if you want, if it's not exactly what you're looking for, but it's close. Again, we'll dig into that. So let's actually talk about actually how this works. First thing is we need to get the module installed. Now I actually have the module installed, but I'll show you. To install it, you go to add-on modules in Foundry. We're going to click install module, and I'm just going to search for encounter enhancer. And I think just ENH will get me there. Yeah, see, narrative encounter enhancer. Boy, that's a hard one to say. This is the module. You can see Thurian Knight, that's me. So this is the one we're talking about right here. Now you can see I've already got it installed, so I don't need to install it, but it is that easy, as with any module in Foundry. And this, by the way, this works with any system. I, of course, am the developer of Hyperborea. That's where I use it, but it works with D&D 5e, Pathfinder, Old School Essentials, Worlds Without Number. I mean, you name it, because it has nothing to do with the system you're running. You have to create your own encounter tables. Those are going to be specific to your system and your world that you're adventuring in. And this, all it does is take the text. So it has nothing to do with any rules of the particular system you're using. So it will work with literally any game system that you want. So, but I'll be demonstrating briefly the setup in D&D 5e, and then I'll actually run it in Hyperborea where I have it fully configured. Okay, so let's say we've got it installed now. So I'm just going to go ahead and cancel out of this. And if we look at game worlds, I've got a number of test worlds here, but I will just go ahead and hop into D&D 5e. So we'll launch this up. We'll get in as game master, no big deal. This is my dev system, so of course I don't have a password or anything. Let's see here. Okay, if I go into the config, so the first thing, of course, I need to do is manage the modules to enable it. So you can see narrative encounter enhancer. It's not currently enabled, so I'm going to check the box. I'm going to save. Yes, I need to restart. No problem. And then once we're back in, I'll go back in. We'll go to configure settings. Now I have the narrative encounter enhancer. Once again, having trouble saying that right here. And you got a few fields that you need to fill in. There's some defaults here, but you do need an open API key. So this is free from ChatGPT. Just go to openai.com and get yourself a free account. Then you can get an API key. The key itself is free. Now there is a charge when you use it for things like this app. However, it's extremely cheap if you use the GPT 3.5 Turbo model. I've got a few presets in here, but this one, GPT 3.5 Turbo, it works. It works great. This is all I use. I don't care about the other 2 enhanced AI models. To be honest, I have not noticed a difference in the output they produce, and we'll be using 3.5 Turbo for the demo, so you'll see exactly what I get. But so you do need to fill in your key. This is not a key right here. This is sort of an example of what it's going to look like. It's SK dash and then a whole bunch of random characters. In general, I think they always start with SK. So anyways, you need to paste that into your system. Then you select a model. This is actually checked by default on initial installation. So because I had previously installed it, I had unchecked it and I forgot about that. But normally this is checked, show welcome message on world load, which you will see shortly. I'll reload it just to make sure you can see that welcome message, because that actually gives you some instructions on the setup. All the stuff we're going to talk about here, it kind of does that in the welcome message, which appears in the chat bar. And once you've got yourself configured and set up, you can then uncheck this box because you don't want to be annoyed by that every time it pops up in your chat, or every time you load the world, which it would then pop up in your chat. So then we have the encounter prompt template. Now this is what we're telling ChatGPT to do. Okay, so we're telling it to summarize the following RPG encounter, blah, 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 blah. I would actually recommend leaving this alone. But if you find that it's not quite giving you what you want, you could actually take and paste this into like a notepad, look at what it says, maybe tweak the text, and then repaste it back into here, and replace the default. But otherwise, I would recommend just leaving this as is. But you can tweak it if you want. Just make sure you have this encounter in the double curly braces, because that is going to be replaced with the actual context of additional text that you send it, such as this default game preset, the genre preset. There's a number of pre-configured ones here. Sword and Sorcery is what I use for Hyperborea, and I just left that as the default. But if I'm running D&D 5e, I might set it to High Fantasy. Or maybe I'm running a 5e but grimdark flavored campaign. I might set it to that. Whatever it happens to be, I'll leave it as Sword and Sorcery. And then world or region lore. Again, this is just a text field where you can provide some additional context that will be sent to OpenAI to help it flavor the text that you get back. So this is going to describe your world. Now for Hyperborea, I actually just said this is for the Hyperborea tabletop role-playing game, which is based on the writings of Robert E. Howard, Clark Ashton Smith, and H.P. Lovecraft. And ChatGPT actually knows about all this stuff, so it knows how to flavor my text back for Hyperborea. Okay, for D&D, if I'm doing Faerun, their world for that WotC has for their world, or if I'm doing a homebrew world, I might give it some information like that. Especially if it's a homebrew world that ChatGPT knows nothing about, right? There's no publishings out on the internet that ChatGPT might have been trained on, because ChatGPT almost certainly knows about Faerun. They know about Galarian for Paizo Pathfinder. They know about Hyperborea. They know about Mystara probably for D&D, older D&D, et cetera, et cetera. ChatGPT has been trained on all this information from the internet, so it knows about a lot of this stuff. But if it's a homebrew world, you're going to want to give it some information that explains it. And you may want to test it a little bit and see how much information it really needs, because it might be enough to just give it a few keywords or a couple of sentences. It's really hard to say. It depends on how unique your world is. And then once you're done, you're going to save the changes. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and close out of here. Okay, so that explains the configuration. Now let me just show you what it looks like when it pops up in the chat. You see I've got some other ones in here. So if I'm just going to go ahead and reload the world, I think I left that checkbox checked. So we should get a, oh, maybe I didn't. Let me just check this here and see what I got in here. Oh yeah, I didn't. So let's just check that, save the changes. Now if I go back and reload, we should get there's our welcome text chat. So here's what you get with that checkbox checked. You see the configuration, you set up your OpenAPI key, choose your model, customize your stuff, all the stuff we just talked about. It gives you those basic bullet points. Incidentally, there's also in the README for the module, there's a little more information in there as well, but this video really should be enough info to get you started. So, okay, now we're going to go ahead and back out of here, and we're going to go to my Hyperborea game system where I have it pre-configured. I'm not going to show you that config because it does have my OpenAI API key in it, and I don't want to show that. So we're not going to go over that config. You've seen what needs to go in there. So now what we do is we've got that configured there. Now if you look at rollable tables, here's how you set up your encounter table. So first of all, it needs to be in a folder that has the word encounter or encounters in it. So this would work, Dungeon Encounters, and I have one rollable table in there. I also have subfolders. Those of you familiar with Hyperborea might be familiar with Ben Ball's Encounter Tables, which is a free PDF available on the Northwind Adventures website. And I actually took and recreated those tables in Hyperborea here. So there's a whole ton of locations right off the Hyperborea world map and terrain types as well. And because the word encounter is in this subfolder right here, it still works. It'll work on any table that's under this one. If I had a table that was just in free resources, it wouldn't count because that's not in the encounter. But because these locations are subfolders under encounter tables, it'll still work. So I can roll an encounter right on this one. So the next thing is when you set up your encounter tables, is I highly recommend you give it some description. This paragraph that you see right at the top here. In fact, I'll go into edit mode so you can see. You've got your table like this, but if you go to summary, here's the text that I'm talking about. Fill this in. This again gets sent to ChatGPT or OpenAI. So this gives it some additional context on top of what's provided in the basic config that you did in the module configuration, like the world lore box, which is a pretty small text box. It'll take a lot of text, by the way. You could put a whole paragraph worth of text in there. It's just, kind of a pain to edit because it is just this tiny text box. You got to paste it into like Notepad or something and edit it there if you really wanted to do that. But anyways, in a given region, like these encounter tables are on different locations, the terrain, the climate might be entirely different from one region to the next. So I highly recommend making each of your tables, if they're climate specific, location specific, terrain specific. Once again, do I have anything in here? I might not. No, I don't, because the way Ben Ball's encounter tables work is the locations link to the terrain subtables. So the terrain tables are never rolled directly. But like from Alice Mercury here, you can see I might be rolling on the animals table or the mythical table or something like that. So long story short, fill in some text here, some descriptive text. You can see I've also got terrain listed specifically right there. And that's the terrain table that is used under the terrain folder. Let me just close that. In the terrain folder, there's a volcanic table right down here, volcanic. So all of the table links are linking to rollable tables under here. Okay, that's just the way the tables are organized. So if I just do a roll on Alice Mercury now, we're going to go ahead and just do a draw result, and I'll go back over to the chat. So you can see here, we've got this here. So this time it's a blizzard. It might be monsters other times, so it really depends. But I can still use this. I can still use the Enhance Encounter feature. So you can see this text. This is what's coming from the rollable table. So this is going to be sent to ChatGPT, as well as this blizzard here. So this Enhance Encounter, this is the module. You click the button and you get this pop-up here. And you can see, you can give it some additional context, the scene context. And I highly recommend using this. You might even say, it's morning. You might say it's cloudy. Whatever you need to say here that helps out. And in fact, I'll just say morning, cloudy, cold, temperature. Okay, sure I spelled that right. You could say my mood or tone is maybe it's tense. I don't know why, but you could set a mood or tone. And then this other notes, this is the stuff that you put in the module configuration section. So you can see the genre was sword and sorcery. You may remember I showed you that. And then this is my world lore field, Hyperborea TTRPG, weird science fantasy influenced by the writings of Clark Ashton Smith, Robert E. Howard, and H.P. Lovecraft. So because ChatGPT does know about these things, that's sufficient to give it some world lore just by telling you the game system that I'm playing in and the world that I'm using. And with that, I click Enhance. And now I wait a few seconds, and there it goes. So I got a response back from OpenAI. You can see this is a GM whisper. Okay, so the players don't see this, and that, of course, very good reasons for that, because it might be, this is a random encounter. The players don't necessarily know what's going on. And then you can take this and you can decide, does this fit exactly? And then you could just read it word for word. As the morning sun struggles to break through the thick clouds, a sudden blizzard descends upon the mountainous island of Alice Mercury, which of course is where the players are, the PCs. Once serene landscape is now obscure, yada yada. You could do that, or you could say, it is ChatGPT. It's not perfect. And sometimes the context you provide is not perfect. So it might give you something that's not entirely valid. So you might just want to use the text as inspiration, but then say it in your own words and make it fit the situation better. So that's your choice, but this is what you get back, and this is how the module works. And that's really it. You click Enhance Encounter, you give it some additional context, give it a mood, and then hit Enhance and just wait a couple of seconds to get the response back. Again, this is designed for random encounters. You can do this in dungeons. It doesn't matter, right? Because I've got one for dungeons here, the Crypt of Dalvernar. So let's actually just I'll just do a draw result from right here. But I do have a description in here. You can see this, the crypt talks a little bit about it there. So we'll just go ahead and draw a result. I'll just close this actually, but okay, so there we go. We got a result. Again, there's the description of the crypt. I got 1d2 shadows. So now I'm going to click Enhance Encounter, and I'm just going to say it's surreal, and I'm going to say unknown time. The party has been in this dungeon for a few days and lost track of the hours. Okay, kind of fun, right? A little mysterious. They're in a dungeon. It's not like anybody has a timepiece, so they don't really know what time it is. They're just guessing. So we'll just do that, see what we get back. So here we go. As you navigate the chilling crypt of Dalvernar, which I may not say that. They know they're in the crypt of Dalvernar. I might just say, as you navigate the chilling tunnels of the crypt, the whispers of forgotten souls echo through the corridors. Suddenly, 2 ethereal shadows. By the way, the system will take this 1d2, and it will try to... Again, it's ChatGPT. Just realize ChatGPT is super cool for a tool. It is not perfect. It will try to figure out what 1d2 means and roll a 1 or a 2. Sometimes you get an invalid number. Usually it's right, but just be aware that you have to be smarter than the computer system you're using. But in this case, it did guess that it rolled 1d2 in the background for me, and it determined the answer was 2. So it says 2 ethereal shadows materialize from the darkness, their forms flickering with an otherworldly glow as they glide towards you with silent malice. The air grows even colder as their icy touch threatens to chill you to the bone. Now that is pretty dang cool, I gotta say. I think I'm a pretty creative guy, but my creativity is more about writing code, right? Coming up with cool solutions to problems. I love this. So I hope you guys get great use out of it. Just a couple of demo examples of how the module works. It's super easy to use. Once you get the API key, that's probably the hardest part, is setting up your account with OpenAI. You do have to give them a credit card number because you basically have to deposit a few dollars into your wallet with them so that they can bill you for the API usage. But just realize, I've probably run 100+ tests through the system, and I've used like 3 cents, 3 US pennies. Right, those of you who are Americans, or if you just are aware of the US dollar, 3/100ths of a dollar. So this is super cheap. I think I threw $5 in my OpenAI wallet. That's gonna last me forever. So, it's basically free, even though it's technically not, and you do have to give them a credit card number. But that's like the hardest part, is the setting up of your OpenAI account. But once you've got that, you can reuse that API key for any number of things, or you can create multiple keys. If you want to have different billing, it's totally fine. OpenAI doesn't care. Because I have 3 modules that all use OpenAI. I use the same key for all 3 of them because it is so cheap. So I've got the character backstory generator and the personality oracle. Those are the 2 modules that I already have a video for. And then I have this one. I'm using the same OpenAI key for all of them. Again, I've only run up about 3 cents in charges on a $5 wallet. So that's going to last me forever. But there it is. There's the module. Hope you guys have happy adventuring. I hope you GMs can make some good use out of this. I know I'm going to be using it. And this is Dave, signing off.